Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John. This is episode 261, and my, how time flies. Each and every week, I sit down here at my desk in my office and I answer your questions. So if you have questions, send them to podcast at DanJohnUniversity.com. Remember, it's podcast at DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every one. Here on episode 261, and we've noticed this lately, is we're getting less and less questions. Now, one of my first thoughts is we've answered every question. There's never, ever going to be another one. Or maybe it's a time of year where people aren't asking a lot of questions. So let's get started, because we have a kind of an interesting question from Tom. Something happened to Tom, and I want to talk about the situation too. So Tom says this. He says, I was injured on the bike this past week. I got clipped by a hit-and-run driver and sustained 10 rib fractures, a broken nose, and multiple lacerations. Spent 3 days in the hospital. First off, not far from my house, just a week or two ago, a young lady pulled over because there was an injured pet in the street, and some guy in a truck killed her and then drove off. And fortunately, the public really stepped up, and his own friends turned him in. And I guess he had tried to clean the evidence off of his truck. Hit and run driving, I guess everybody has their thing, but that's the one. That's one of the ones for me that we all make mistakes. We all do bad things, but Tom, and I hope you have good insurance. I hope things are going to be okay in your life. But it breaks my heart to hear that. I am back home now. I am walking and trying to move around, and that, I got to tell you, my friend, I've had broken noses. I have a lot of problems. No way. Yes, true. At least 6 that I can think of. Sports is tough on, broke my helmet. My helmet broke in a football game, crushed my nose. Just a pinning a guy in a wrestling match. He hit me like that and broke my nose, and I bled all over him as a punishment. Just a lot of things. But I know how uncomfortable a broken nose could be, and of course with 10 rib fractures, the fact that you're getting up and trying to move around, Tom, I think our whole audience salutes you. I was having a good cycling season, and I started implementing easy strength and was experiencing the what the heck effect. Oh, that's good to hear. I've been weightlifting for a while, and that may have helped me not be injured worse and accelerate my road to recovery. I don't think there's anybody who would argue that the fundamentals of weightlifting, and I'll throw in gymnastics, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other sports I'm missing, just give you a little extra edge when it comes to life's tragedies. And again, Tom, it bothers me, honestly, to read what's happening here. But one of the things I'm really push people in when they're young is to learn how to tumble, learn how to take a fall. And as you go through life, spend time on the floor. I roll around with my daughter's corgi puppy. I roll around with my grandchildren on the ground. I get on the floor for sometimes just for the simplest of reasons, but getting up and down off the floor, I know how to tumble. I know how to break fall. So if something does happen down the line, I have the techniques to help myself if I do have a slip or a fall. Also, I lift the weights 3 days a week. I Olympic lift. I do the kettlebells. I do this and that. I challenge my balance with a lot of things. And I think it gives me a little bit of a buffer in case something bad does happen. Certainly, if you get into a T-bone auto crash, any trap and neck work you've ever done in your life will be very helpful at that moment. So yeah, I do think it does help. And it's all pretty simple. There's that old joke, I use it all the time, about the young man has just gotten back from seminary or theology school, and they're going across the lake, and the boatman says, what did you learn at school? And he said, important things, like religion and God and theology. He goes, oh, did you learn how to swim? And the guy goes, no, only important things. And of course the boatman says, too bad, because the boat is sinking. So, learning how to swim is a lot better early than when you actually have to. So I do think there is some value in all this. The question is this. My question for you is, once I get the A-OK to get back in the gym, what do you recommend me starting with? Do I pick up easy strength again, or do you recommend another program? I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just giving you some obvious advice. The most important thing, what you're going to have to, it's going to be harder than you think. If I got this right, you've got 10 rib fractures, which means that anything you do with breathing is just going to be a problem. I'm sure already, Tom, you're feeling a lot of discomfort, but I think this would be one of those strange cases where if you do anything that gets your breath going fast, boom, it's going to be pain. So if you can, I'm going to recommend this to you, Tom, as soon as you can. If you can find a gym close to your house or whatever, I'd love to see you get on machines. Just the simple stuff: leg extension, leg curl, a vertical press, a vertical pull, a horizontal press, a horizontal pull. The reason I say those terms, gentle listeners, because that's what they're often labeled on the machines now. Even something like the rows, maybe even the presses, you might start to feel the compression, during the movements. Maybe it'll be uncomfortable, but find things that you can do on machines. And you don't have to. You're not going to spend the rest of your life doing this, I hope. But think 3 to 5 sets of anywhere from 8 to 25 reps. Keep an eye on the breath rate. Keep your eye on discomfort. I want you to, we're going back to the 1970s now. I want you to pump your muscles up a little bit. I want you to, release those hormones a little bit that'll make you feel better, give a little smile on your face. Take your time. Enter back as easily as you can. Now, as a cyclist, I hope you get back on the bike. But this would be a real good time for you to get on a spinning bicycle, an exercycle, something that's not going to challenge your balance, something that's not going to challenge, so that if something does come up, and I got to tell you, with the combination of a broken nose and broken ribs, breathing is going to be an issue. I just can't imagine how it won't be. But if you have any panic with pain, any panic from, you can just take your feet off the pedal and you're fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. Once you feel great, once you're back to yourself, and I imagine when you hear this, you'll be closer to that. I think easy strength for bicycling is a great idea. I've recommended many times on this channel, my friend at bikejames.com, bikejames.com. James has recommended through the years the goblet squat, the kettlebell swing, the Turkish get up, the windmill stick, exercise I'd like to think I invented, because I did. But he also recommends isometric work, which might be a real good idea to look in. But I don't think there's any question that every sport, even in a recreational level, can be helped by lifting weights. And I think easy strength is easy strength is a simple way for you to get stronger without really having to overthink or overdo anything. So I'd like to see it over time get back to it. But for a while, just kind of nudge yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Give yourself a break as you get back into shape, okay? Thank you, Tom. And I think I speak for everybody that we all hope you the best. And thank you for reaching out. And I hope there was some help here. All right. For those of you who didn't just break 10 ribs and a broken nose and lacerations, every so often, it's not a bad idea to do what I told Tom to do, is just get back into machines for a couple weeks. If you're an Olympic lifter, I think there's real value to it. I remember, Tommy Kono recommended go back to general bodybuilding. Joe Mills, the great coach, recommended getting back into general bodybuilding. Obviously, if you're an Olympian or something like that, maybe the rules are different. But for most of us, there's real value in, every so often giving yourself a movement change slide back to machines, or if you're using kettlebells or barbells, slide into more of the traditional, bodybuilding, or what they used to call shaping exercises in the 1950s, and then move back into more of the strength movements. I think you'll find that your joints will like it a lot, and I guarantee long term it'll help you look good, move good, feel good. Thank you, Tom, and good luck. So we have a question from Dave. Now, this is an interesting question. Dave says this: I'm writing on behalf of my 17-year-old nephew, Reese. Reese started high jumping in his sophomore year of high school. This year, as a junior, Reese has a personal record of 6 feet 9 inches and is getting the attention of some D1 programs. I remember in my youth, if you were a 6'9" high jumper as a male, you wouldn't just get attention, you'd get everything. But now that the flop has just taken over, it's just fascinating to see how the standards of the high jump have gone up. We'll stop there. My question for you is, what strength training would you recommend for Reese? His mom, my sister-in-law, was a high jumper at Auburn, so he appears to have good genes on his side. Any recommendations would be greatly appreciated. Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing, you already picked on it. It's really important to have a mom who was a high jumper at a major university. I think, I can't tell you how hard it is in track and field, and I'm sure there's some other sports too, of trying to get a square peg into a round hole, or whatever cliche of the week we have. The thing about the high jump, and when I was at the Olympic Training Center, this is a long time ago, they had a film of this Soviet high jumper who trained on his own, and I got to tell you, his facilities were terrible. His high jump facility was inside of a barn that I'm sure was a wet barn whenever the weather changed. And he mostly had mattresses, old mattresses, as a landing pit. And then he had a little trail going in there, and his weight workouts were power snatches, and then he high jumped, and that's all he did. So the first thing, Dave, I think when it comes to any sport in track and field, is first find the exercise that either you and the athlete, or your experience and the athlete's experience, kind of say, okay, these are the movements that tend to support this athlete in this event. With my very good discus thrower, my All-American I'm working with, we discovered with her that the suitcase carry and the squat snatch were the best exercises. When she did those, she threw far. Now, there's obviously, we do all kinds of other things, but you have to kind of say, okay, here are the two big ones. When I was at Utah State, I mentioned this on the site before, that basically my senior year, I did squat snatches and power cleans because I was just so sick of lifting. I mean, I'd lifted nonstop for, it would have been 8 straight years, 5 to 20 workouts a week, and recovering from a concussion. I just said, I just don't need all that. I did bench and I did back squat also, but just to kind of do them. And it's funny because I had the best throws in my career by backing off and doing less, by choosing exercises that helped me. All right, so let's get back to Reese for a second. All right, to me, it seems that the Olympic lifts in the weight room are going to be probably the best. I've been a believer in this my whole life. And I mean, I see people doing the jump, they take the trap bar and they jump with it. And I see a lot of that, and I'm fine with it. And I also know a lot of programs now just use straps for the Olympic lifts, and they don't turn the bar over. And I understand why you do that. I don't like the excuses they say. Very often the excuses are things like, we don't have the flexibility and mobility. My thought is always, well, I want full body flexibility. I want full body mobility, just for life reasons. And we just had the question about the bicycle accident, and you want a lot of mobility if you're getting, you want mobility, flexibility, you want overall body strength if your body has to deal with a trauma. So I would say, if you can teach the Olympic lifts, I think there's value. Now, if you are going to teach Olympic lifts, that also means that you're looking ahead 3 and 4 and 5 years later. I'm certain you could teach a very easy to learn exercise very quickly and be valued. So if it's Olympic lifts and squats, personally, I think the front squat is always better for jumpers. That's my opinion, and it's just because this is what I know. I'm sure other people could argue for the back squat, and that's fine. If you're going to do kettlebells in the kettlebell family, I mean the classic 6 exercises, there'd be value in all of them: the clean and press, the snatch, the squat family, the Turkish get up. There's value in all that. The swing. The swing might be really valuable, if especially that really dynamic hinge we see in the modern high jumper. Again, it's a learning process. If you don't want to take the time and energy to teach the kettlebell swing, I think the high jump might be one of the sports that you might get a lot of value of those heavy hip thrusts. As we come in now on the modern high jump, the flop, but even the way it's being done now, with that last that last step is just so different, and the body hinges. Stuart McGill had a great explanation of this at a workshop. I think the hip thrust might be valuable. Now, so that's the weight room stuff. So basically, I'm telling you, and there's nothing new. I read this in 1974 for the first time. Anytime you combine the Olympic lifts and the power lifts, you're pretty much covering what you're going to do in the weight room. I think the hip thrust is a good addition. All the stuff that you see online, sometimes I am going to warn you, you see a lot of bounding, a lot of leaping, a lot of jumping, which is, of course, is going to be something we're going to have to do. But one of the things you're going to have to throw into your head more than anything is quality. Quality, quality, quality. I look at these poor kids. An article came out a couple years ago in a volleyball magazine called Plyometrics for Volleyball. And there was probably a 3 or 4 year period where every poor high school kid I ran into, females here in Utah mostly, could barely walk because they had been doing so many depth jumps, so much bounding, so much of this, so much of that, without the base build up to allow that. So with this high jumper at 6'9", well, of course we really want to give him over 7 foot as a senior, because it's just such a line in the sand. For my international audience, 7 feet is like this line in the stand. It's like the 500-pound clean and jerk. It's just these numbers that we have in our system that they're just big deals. 200 feet in the long throws would be another one. If we can get them on just a solid weightlifting program of any kind, even as something as simple as Jim Wendler's 531, Greg Shepard's Bigger, Faster, Stronger. There's some other programs out there, just basic, simple programs. You're going to see improvements if he hasn't lifted at all. I would like to see you have plenty of time getting in the weight room. I wouldn't want him lifting weights, 3 weeks before the season starts. It's something I would see, 6 to 9 months before we'll see where the weightlifting helps. So there's going to be jumping, there's going to be bounding, there's going to be practice, there's going to be the Olympic lifts, there's going to be the power lifts. But the most important thing, and I'm just going to end it here, the most important thing is DNA. But number 2 is just keep reminding yourself that you're building a high jumper. The reason I think I became a high jumper, I became a strength coach, was when Coach Mon was having a disagreement with one of our high jumpers who kept doing a whole bunch of upper body work in the weight room because he wanted to look good at the beach. And Coach Mon's point was, any mass you put on your upper body is additional mass that, your leg strike and your hip hinge and your snap and your jump all have to now carry more of a burden. And Coach Mon was very concerned about his high jumpers becoming bodybuilders, not high jumpers anymore. So just in the back of your mind, if you keep that, I think it's a good idea. Keep that in the back of your mind. You're building a high jumper. And if you get him over 7 feet as a senior, 7'1", 7'2", 7'3", and then it's interesting. There's a lot of schools here in the West, the smaller universities, that won't recruit high jumpers under 7'3" now, which just amazes me. But it is because of the flop. It's a superior biomechanical way to get over. And the modern pits is a big one too. You cannot ignore that. And then finally, of course, intelligent training. Make sure all those factors are in there, and Citius, Altius, Fortius, okay? Swifter, higher, stronger. All right, thanks. I hope that helped. We got a question from Garrett. It's an interesting question. I have Peter Attia's book here, and he gives all the credit for the loaded carries to someone who's trained in my gym named Mike Easter. So whenever I read the loaded carry section of the book, I'm always like, oh, but I told, yeah. Okay, Peter Attia discusses the 2 minutes of body weight farmer's carry as a fitness standard for males. How would you recommend training with the focus being on increasing the farmer carry to reach the standard? I have access to 2 24 kilo bells, 132, a pull-up bar, and a 125-pound strongman bag. Well, the thing is, you have a nice combination of, you have a really nice combination of equipment here. The issue about when you say farmer carry, and this is a problem I have with a lot of people who've never really. It's great that, now that loaded carries are so popular, and you know what? You're welcome. The cover of my book, Never Let Go. I think that's the Korean version. And the reason I really pushed the loaded carry so much was, my left wrist is in a cast right there, and I was told by my doctor I'd never lift again. So back 20 plus years ago, 22, 23 years ago, I started writing articles, and I really started pushing loaded carries at my workshops because it made such a difference. And I think I've shared this before. This is a nice little thing that one of my readers sent me years ago, which I still think is just gorgeous. It's a statue of the cover of the book. I love loaded carries, and the thing about loaded carries and Garrett is I think they have great value, but there's an issue. It's always this. What do you mean by that? So when I say farmer walk, I still use that. To me, means an implement in each hand like this. A suitcase carry is just an implement in one hand, okay? If you're carrying a trap bar deadlift, which most of us now use, I test with it too, because it's so much easier to load. If I want 100 kilos, or if I want 225 pounds on an American trap bar, you just slide 245s and boom, there you have it. If you want 225 pounds on 2 farmer bars, there's a lot of math in there, and it's real hard to get to. So the first thing is, are we talking about in each hand half the body weight in 2 separate dumbbells, or what I have at the gym here? I have farmer bars at the gym. Or are we talking about a trap bar deadlift, which I think is easier personally. It's easier math-wise, but I also think, for some reason, I think they're easier. Same load just seems easier to me. 2 minutes, it seems to me arbitrary. When we do our test out here, we set up 2 cones and we just see how many loops we can make. We have some, like I have a guy who played linebacker in a Division I school. I can remember him heaving after about 2 minutes, and you're talking about a Division I linebacker. So it's a hard challenge. Doable? Absolutely doable. Now, let's get back to the equipment you have. First off, you have 2 24s. I think one of the things I would do if I were you, I would do a lot of the farmer walks with those double 24s, the suitcase carry for the 32s, but get the work in with that big sandbag that you have, that 125. So I would say 3 days a week you should load and carry with the equipment that you have. 1 day a week I would do the farmer walk with the double 24s. 1 day a week I do the 32s, suitcase carry out and back. And then the hard day would be, death marches with that big 125-pound sandbag. Go for that for about 2, maybe 3 weeks. And on the 3rd week, I'd like to see you combine them. So it'd be something along these lines. On the first day of the week, do both the farmer walk and the suitcase carry. The second day of the week, do the suitcase carry and the Rogue strongman bag. There's another option I don't want you to explore, and then on the third day, I'd like to see you do all three. So farmers, suitcase, and the big bag carry. After 3 weeks, so that would be after 3 weeks of doing the single thing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 2 weeks, however it works out for you, when you slide up to those doubles day, it's going to be exhausting. Give yourself 2-3 weeks again, and then take a test. I don't know where you're going to find the equipment. Certainly trap bar loaded up to your body weight's one way to go. Maybe a local gym, they'll have, I don't know what your weight is, but say you weigh 200 pounds, 100-pound dumbbell in each hand, and you can either march in place or you can make a short loop and do the 2 minutes. But I see this as something you probably do to 4 to 6 weeks with just basic low-end reasonable training. It's not impossible, it's doable, but you do have to build up to it a little bit. And I hope that helps, Garrett. Thank you. I do have Peter's book. It's right there. I was listening to his podcast, and he said somewhere that the original book was twice the size. And I thought to myself, holy cow, that's a lot there. I am very happy that he includes loaded carries in all of his work, and I think it is a game changer. A lot of the stuff I read in the longevity books, and I've been candid about this before, I don't like, I just looked down, I saw another, I don't like how many supplements a lot of the longevity books recommend. I don't like all the medical interventions a lot of the books recommend, but loaded carries is something I can hang in now. Milo of Croton, the guy who picked up the bull, every day, he carried it, and that's what made him one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Great, big fan of loaded carries here. Like I usually say at workshops when people ask the question, my answer is usually yes, do them. And so my answer to you, Garrett, is yes, do them in an organized fashion, 4 to 6 weeks. All right, thank you. Matt has a question, actually 2 questions for us. The first one is this: any downside to increasing reps on the pull-ups during easy strength? I have a belt to add weight, but my bar at home is in the doorway and I am loath to add a ton of extra weight. And as a point of vanity, I do want to get back to some 15 plus pull-ups. So first off, and I hope everyone heard his point, if you don't have the equipment to do something, you can't do it. First question we ask you on the workout generator is, what equipment do you have? And if you're in a gym with a $10,000 rack and a great pull-up area, yeah, you can probably put weight on. If it's a doorway bar, and my knock on doorway bars is, of course I own the house, so I'm always worried it's going to ruin the frame. But my biggest knock is it's really hard for, at least me, to not have my feet hit the ground all the time. I know someone's going to say, well, just curl your feet up. But then when I'm trying to push the pull-ups, I get those damn hamstring cramps from that position. In your case, yeah, I would chase the higher reps. Sure. The idea of easy strength is easy strength is permission. It's permission to you to figure out a way to train 5 days a week and slowly build up your strength. Okay? That's the idea. If you're going to measure strength by reps on the pull-up, doing more reps is progress, and that's what I want to see you do. So my answer to you, stick with that doorway pull-up bar. Keep an eye on the frame every so often. Double check it. You don't want to see nails popping out or screws popping out. And you go ahead and progress up. I think that's fine. Try to never miss on pull-ups though. Second question: while I do some workouts at home, I also have access to a gym over lunch. Are there pros and cons of splitting an already short workout into different parts of the day? I think anybody who's ever trained at home begins to do that. I noticed years ago, I was getting ready for a kettlebell cert, and I was noticing that I was getting my kettlebell snatches in the late afternoon, but I was also doing 1 or 2 small things in the morning. When you add up all the workouts, I don't think I worked out very long, but because of children and careers and mowing the lawn and dogs vomiting on the carpet and, you know, cats scratching things and, you know, life, I would break things up a little bit. Is there an advantage to that? Yeah, if you're going to a certification, it is, because that you get to practice training throughout the day. If it's just, and in your case, I think there might be an advantage also, because it'll give yourself a chance to use some other pieces of equipment. I mean, I have a really well-stocked home gym, but there's some stuff I don't have, so it gives you a chance to use other pieces of equipment. You can also play around with an idea. A number of people have been telling me that they have an easy strength workout. So they do the 15-minute workout, and then I got to be careful here about telling you anything, because I'm going to get 10,000 questions on what I'm about to say, but I'm okay with it. So you do the easy strength workout, it takes you 15 minutes. And then say on Monday, you would do a lot of extra work on your biceps and triceps. Maybe Wednesday, you would do extra work on your lower body. Maybe Friday, you do some extra work on something you think you need. I don't know, lats or pecs or whatever it is, you know, that, you know, Frankenstein's monster stuff. So one idea is that you can use your gym time to explore other movements, and you will make progress, especially if you know keep a journal, write things down, and just keep on moving ahead. It's a fun question, and the doorway chin-up bar that would be a fun thing. There's a thing that used to be called gym fails online, and I was always amazed. The Ice House, it's a pub here in Murray. During trivia night, sometimes I'll have the fail channel on. I don't know what the name of the channel is, but and very often people will video themselves doing something at home in a doorway chin-up bar, and it ends up being a very funny thing for us to look at, but not very funny for you. So just be careful and keep an eye on things. Hey, thanks, okay. Okay, this is our last question. Things went by fast, as I said. Oh, excuse me, I scrolled too quickly. Okay, we have a question from Tony. He says this: I follow the ABC Armor Building Challenge format 2 times a week and split it with 1 snatch work out in between, kettlebell snatch. I have 2 questions related to the snatch form and would like your opinion. First, for general strength and conditioning, is the half snatch better than the full? I hate that exercise. I don't think there's any value. We did it at the San Jose RKC when I was learning how, and all it did was destroy my hands. I get why people use it. I hear all these magical things online about it, but in my experience, I don't see why you would do it. Certainly, there's a value in learning it, but when I'm with the other instructors and we fold our hands and kind of lean in and kind of go, do you ever do this exercise? And generally, the best instructors I know. Now, they won't say it on the forums and they won't say it in a video, but they'll generally say, it's worthless. I don't use it at all. And then walk over and then praise the exercise. So I'm just telling you from the heart here, okay? Personally, I feel more benefit of controlled return to rack for shoulder strength, but realize I may be sacrificing grip and forearm strength, eliminating the full ballistic motion. I might be misunderstanding. I think when you were saying the half snatch, I was wondering if you were meaning this, but if you're saying you do the snatch and then you bring it down your shoulders and then go into the hinge, yeah, the problem with that method is that you never truly learn that dynamic bow and arrow style that I teach of doing the kettlebell swing, where every single snatch, I said swing, where every single snatch is just a big, you load up your hips, you load up your hamstrings, and you get it down here, and then boom, and then elbow punch, stab it, and it's done, and just keep repeating. Your method is going to make it hard to do that technique. So if you're trying to get the 100 reps for the snatch test, you're trying to do the 200 reps for the 10-minute test, probably not going to help you. But for a home gym trainer, Tony, it might be perfect for you, especially what you said about your being in control. There's the chance of you getting hurt probably will drop down a little bit. If you have any issues, it'll probably help you, okay? Second, when the bell is at the bottom of the snatch, I feel as though a pause or dead hang, even for a second, to eliminate movement is more beneficial than simply hammering into the next rep. Am I missing a benefit here? I'm not a fan of that, Tony, because it's so hard on the shoulders. We sometimes call it the lawnmower pull style. And I don't know how many reps you have in your whole life on the dead hang snatch, but I think you have more total reps in your life with the correctly done snatch. It's just hard on the shoulder. It's a little bit more like a traffic accident. That's funny. That must be the theme of today's show, traffic accidents. I've said it several times. But personally, I'd rather you do it correctly, like you're going to do a snatch test or a GS sport competition, than this method. Your point about going back to the dead hang was something discussed years ago. And it'd be the early 70s, because I remember reading Iron Man magazine and Strength and Health about it. The argument was whether the dead hang, snatch, and clean were better ways to learn, to build power. And the problem is you're teaching the body another movement. It is a whole new technique. It's got to be mastered. You got to be good at it. I'm not saying, oh, it's terrible. I'm just saying, just keep that in mind, Tony. For those of you who are kettlebell enthusiasts who are listening to my answer here, I know a lot of you are, some of you are probably crying, but when you answer a question on someone on a podcast, I try to answer the person's question, not what it says in the certification book or not what it says in the book up there. I'm trying to answer the person's question. So just keep that in mind, and thank you very much. Our last question here. Noah asks, I was wondering if you were familiar with the exercise called the vertical lift, popularized by Dragan Radovic, which is just a fancy term for alternating dumbbell curls and press, done for high reps and a cardio effect. Yeah, I've seen the video. I've been to his website, and your next sentence really highlights what I think. I learned about this while doing research on Dr. Leonard Schwartz's heavy hands, who compared the vertical lift to his own methods. As someone wanting to build a great deal of strength endurance, a muscular upper body, but not wanting to do all the technical patterning of a kettlebell clean and jerk long cycle, I was wondering what your thoughts on this more brute force high rep exercise. Well, this takes me way back in time. Probably when the movie that had the song Back in Time. But years ago, I bought 2 double 15-pound dumbbells and 2 25-pound dumbbells. And I tried to experiment. I try to be more like Leonard. And I would go around doing that. First off, just doing standard, I think these are level 1 heavy hands, and then adding the more vertical component. And I got to tell you, Noah, if you just want to see your heart rate and you want to see your biceps pump up and your heart rate go through the roof, walk around, go 2 miles pumping 15 or 25-pound dumbbells over your head while walking. For this exercise, the vertical lift, I look at it. I think it's okay. I think there's real value to it. I have a number of books here that really push high rep stuff, and I understand this guy does it up to like 1,000 reps or something like that. And hats off to you for that. I think the issue though happens somewhere between 50 and 1,000 reps. I'm not sure you're going to get all the benefits you would by, following the more classic methods of progressive resistance exercise, where you progress in the exercise selection, you progress in the load, you progress in the sets, you progress in the reps, and you progress by time and density, okay? So when you get to say you've got 5 pounds in each hand and you get up to 500 reps, personally, I would push to going to 10 pounds in each hand versus going to 1,000 reps. If that's not in the way you want to do it, that's fine. But I would just keep in mind, my only caveat would just keep in mind the classics of progression. You can, if all you're doing is the curl and press, how much work are you getting with other systems in your body? Though, let's be honest, if you're doing heavy hands walking, you're covering everything. Maybe not the load on or the technical issues with the lower body, but you're taking care of business. So I think it's a good idea, Noah. Make sure next time I understand fully what you mean. So if you have a follow-up on this, I hope you would just show me in a video also what the exercises you're doing, just to make sure we're clear, because you mentioned the vertical lift and then Leonard's heavy hands, and they're close, but they're still different, okay? Wow, hey, that was fun. There you go, episode 261. Remember, if you have questions, you're going to send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I sit down here each and every week and I answer as many as I can. And until next time, let's keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.